This is the Convene podcast.
It's time for another Convene talk. Jen, take it away.
Thanks, Maggie. So I want to chat today about an article I saw on BizBash that talks about Create and Cultivate. So Create and Cultivate is a festival that's been around for about 10 years now. They bill themselves as the largest festival for women in business in the world. And I think it's acquired quite a following since it's launched in the past 10 years. It's known for having some really big names, for its speakers, its entertainment, and also its brand activations, which it had more than 150 at this year's event. This year's event was interesting for a few different reasons. The festival was essentially a relaunch of the event brand. The founder, Jacqueline Johnson, actually sold the brand a few years ago and then bought it back. And then they worked on the format. Previously, it was mostly one-off, one-day events. And what they did was they expanded it and kind of tweaked it into a two-day festival, which kicked off earlier this year. I find it interesting. I was actually on a press trip years ago with Jacqueline and met her. She was there as a influencer. She was really cool to talk to. I just remember her being just like a really interesting person to be around. We were there with Marriott talking about how events were evolving, and she kind of shared some of her insights. So anyway, what's interesting about it is how it continues to find success and reinvent itself more than a decade later. This year saw a couple different larger changes besides just the expanded format. So BizBash, and there was another great article by CNBC, which we'll link down in the notes, talked about how they tapped AI to help with their networking. One of the big things that draws women into this event, I should note that this is a event designed for women, specifically younger women who are interested in business and entrepreneurship, career-minded women. So a lot of the focus of the programming is on connecting them with each other, with these bigger brands. A lot of them are content creators. A lot of them are in creative fields trying to build their own careers. So they use this AI platform that allowed them to kind of note the kind of person they were looking to meet, whether it was like a venture capitalist or a lawyer to help them build their business. And then the system actually paired them up for a 15-minute session. And according to the article, they actually had 10,000 meetings scheduled for just the weekend alone. So another kind of big facet or another big draw of the event is its lineup of big names. It's known, I think a few years back, they had Kim Kardashian. This year for their show, which was sold out, they had Doechii, they had Sierra, they had Aisha Curry and Brittany Snow in the lineup. And it's kind of a mix of entertainment and keynotes and celebrity panels. So that it's interesting because we've talked about that in the past. Like, do celebrities draw attendees? And in this case, it seems like, yes, it really does. And that might be due to the demographic. I just thought it was really cool that this is a example of how women are continuing to look to female-focused spaces to further their careers and just in business events in general. I wrote an article last year about a platform called the Female Quotient, who has equality lounges at male-dominated events like CES, Cannes, the World Economic Forum, I believe. And that is also continually growing. I got to speak with the team, and they told me that at CES, they've had to expand the equality lounge space that they have, which is for women only, to meet the demand. Anyway, so I feel like this isn't necessarily a trend. I feel like it's pretty obvious that women are looking to meet with each other, be inspired by each other, which I really, really love. I'm curious to know what y'all think about this and if you've noticed other events doing the same or if you've ever experienced this in person at an event.
So I can jump in, and actually it just made me think of the special programming at IMEX, and I'm thinking IMEX America, IMEX Frankfurt, they both have dedicated tracks for women in events. That just came when you were speaking about the equality lounges, which was interesting. But while I love the examples and the fact that, yes, we do need such events, and I know why they're out there, a couple of things made an impression on me. The first thing was it's so heavily focused on companies doing activations there. And they also covered such a wide spectrum of what women do. So from cooking to, entrepreneurship to being influencers to everything in between. And you could do your nails and listen to business stuff. It was like all over the place. Also, it was very colorful, very lively. And wow, I love that. I was like, yes, but do we see only women as buyers? I know there's support. I know these events are built so that women can build up their networks, which is very important. I do understand that. But also, we do have to consider that we need men as part of our networks as well. And something that I heard a while back, I can't remember where, but it's embedded in my head, is that while we need to learn women, to support women, to open the doors for other women, we also have to teach men how to open these doors and how to pass on their privilege and, their power onto women. So I like those events, but also we don't have to exclude men, because then it becomes us versus them. And that's not the point. I believe we always need to work together and learn from each other. Also teach men what our struggles are, why do we experience them, and how can they actually be helpful? Because I'm sure a lot of men would like to help, just they don't know how. So that should be an important conversation embedded in these events. Kate, what do you think?
To your point about taking a space set aside for women in business and then kind of turning it into a shopping activation, yes, I think that bringing women together to network with each other without the distractions or the competition is great. But going so far that it kind of resembles, say, Gwyneth Paltrow's In Goop health conference is where you lose me, because I really would want, if I went to this event, I would want the focus to be on business. And my reason for going would be the hosted buyer model, where I know that I'm going to this networking event because I'm going to specifically meet with these like 4 people I want to meet. And then anything else that happens is a happy accident. Whereas I'm not going so that I can like be inspired and have girl time and possibly hear about like an MLM. And so, yeah, I do think that networking events for women need to be really careful to be for women and not for a specific type of woman who would go to something for women. And it's a delicate balance to strike. Michelle.
I don't know that I have an answer. I see both sides. So I see both sides to the argument, but I do agree that having an event for women changes the dynamic. And for some women, they just need to have that. And I would say probably some sectors. So Barbara wrote a story for our August issue on it's the Society of Women Engineers. And I see the reason to have an event for women only in sectors that are male dominant. Also, there have been some conversations about particular sectors that I would say there's more of a chance at an event for women to be harassed or to feel uncomfortable. And so I understand the rationale for having something for women only, where they just don't have to worry about that being, a challenge or a situation. But I agree with you. You need to foster this kind of like equity with having men involved. You need to enroll them, would be what I would say is a more HR kind of term. But for certain sectors, I see there being a need to have only women so that they want to come and know that they're not going to have to deal with any kinds of challenges in terms of having men there. So I see both sides.
I think that this event, specifically Create and Cultivate, is kind of honed in on women who are interested in certain types of careers and doing certain things. It's not so broad that it's like anyone and everyone. For example, this year they created something called a creator compound to focus on all things content creation and online marketing. There's also a center court stage for women in sports, which sounds cool, and a test kitchen for women in food and beverage. And something that she told, and Jacqueline Johnson told CNBC, is we're creating specificity in the content, and you get to choose your own adventure, like where you want to spend your time at the conference and who you want to learn from. So it does seem like they are being quite intentional in who they're trying to reach in terms of what these women do. I think if I was a content creator, I could see myself being really interested in this. Like you said, Maggie, like there's over 150 brand activations, and some of them are with brands that are quite significant. To me, that feels like twofold. Like they're trying, obviously, to. I'm sure they're making some money off of that, but it also serves a purpose. If you've got women who are content creators coming into that space, like looking at a brand activation and potentially getting to meet with them. Maybe they're trying to form brand partnerships of their own. That seems like a great opportunity. I'm kind of making a few assumptions there, but that's kind of just what the article is leading me to believe. Me personally, I kind of love the idea that I'm a girl's girl. I feel safest in women only spaces. Love men. Men are great, fabulous, want to be around them too. But I really do feel at my best and at my most like authentic self when I'm in the company of women. And I relish the time that I get to spend with my female friends and women that I work with, because I feel like I learn so much from them. So I understand and love that spaces like this exist, but you're so right. Like it shouldn't be either, or it shouldn't be only, you know what I mean? Like we need all types of spaces, like 1,000%.
I actually like the fact that there was a comment that sponsors were wowed by the engagement on site. So that's great because they were so clearly aligned with the goal of the event. So that's why they saw amazing results, which I feel is often missing at events. You have to force people to go and see the sponsors just because they're not so well aligned. And also, I believe it was the founder that said that they really wanted to be action oriented. So they are not showing up just with their sign and, yes, we're here, come see us. But they are doing something to provide value to those participants. And of course, there was comment that somebody got a tattoo on site, and I relate to that. I've gotten a tattoo on site as well at IMAX.
Would you ever do that, Maggie?
I've done it. I actually have
Oh,
one.
you've done it at an event?
I have one at
Oh my
IMAX
gosh.
Frankfurt. So at the New Zealand stand back in 2019, there was a tattooist, a Maori tattooist that they brought, who was there to create a tattoo on the spot. That's a Maori tattoo, and he was tattooing people for free right there and then.
Wow. That's so cool.
And I saw it in their daily, in the daily newspaper, which was printed back then. I don't know if they still do it. And I just called my husband. I'm like, so how about that? He was like, what the hell? Go for it. When else would you find a Maori, an actual Maori to make a tattoo for you?
Yeah.
So yeah,
How
I
cool.
left with a tattoo. And the whole idea was that the next year I would go again to IMAX Frankfurt and the same tattooist would be there. But of course, COVID came along and that never happened. But I actually am saving space to continue that tattoo that we've started back in 2019. But I feel I need to go now to New Zealand to do that. But I like a challenge like that.
What a great example of like a destination really making like a connection. You know what I mean? The fact that you now want to go back and continue building on that tattoo. And that all stemmed from an experience that you had. I'm assuming this was the New Zealand exhibit booth, like at
Mhm.
IMAX. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, wow, that's that's a really cool story. I was wondering about that when I read that part of the story. I was like, I don't have any tattoos and I can't imagine committing to one, but I love seeing other people's tattoos. So I was wondering, I'm like, how many people are actually coming up to this booth and going through with it? But I'm glad you shared that because I think that's a really cool example.
Yeah. Anything else we should add?
I don't think so. I think we hit the nail on the head. I really didn't have much more to expand on than that. Yeah.
Maybe with just one last quote that Jacqueline Johnson was quoted in one of the two articles you mentioned. She said, "We're beyond hustle culture. We've gotten to a place where people want to enjoy what they're building." And I really clicked with that.
Hmm.
I get it. I know what she's talking about. It's nice. And at the end of the day, I just want to say I love that she's supporting women in this way and creating something so specific and providing such a specific support to women creators, because I feel that's her intended audience. So kudos, and I'm looking forward to see what she'll do next year. What will be new and exciting.
I
I
am
think
too.
at the end, just to follow up on that, I think that is something that women have not been great about in the workplace is supporting each other. So it is nice that there's an event where they just lift each other up rather than just, I think my generation, baby boomers, is guilty of that, of not being we're not as into team sports as boys when we were young, and so we didn't learn, like, to be part of a team. It was more like especially if you're trying to carve out a career for yourself in an industry where there weren't a lot of other women, you didn't feel like other women could necessarily help you. So that is a nice thing for these women-only events, is that it's turning the tide, and women are being more supportive of one another. A rising tide lifts all boats, as they say.
Yeah, an awesome way to end the conversation. So thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Remember to subscribe to the Convene podcast on your favorite listening platform to stay updated with our latest episodes. For further industry insights from the Convene team, head over to pcma.org/convene. My name is Maggie. Stay inspired, keep inspiring, and until next time.